All right, everyone, it's that time of year. And actually, if you're a candle maker or a small business owner, it's pretty much always that time of year. But if you are prepping for any craft shows or holiday markets and boutiques, you know how much time and effort goes into candle making or making your other products, labeling everything, packing everything up, setting up your booth, and then just praying that it sells. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of time. Making more and more product just becomes cumbersome and difficult. But what if I told you there was another way to boost your sales at these type of events without having to make more and more product? Well, today I'm going to share with you some other ways that you can use products and services to help boost those sales. Low effort, good margin ways to boost those sales during the holidays. And it's things that pair perfectly with your handmade products, like your candles, soap, what have you. So today we're going to talk about sales, some tips for your booth setup and how to run these craft shows. We're going to talk about how to price your products, bundle things together, and basically how to keep everything looking cohesive and together, but not cluttered. You want this to all still be about a brand. You're selling a brand in a business, not just a single product, and you don't want to look like you're running a garage sale. You're running a craft show. And we've talked about this a little bit on the channel already. You guys have always liked those videos, but there are other options out there. For example, today's sponsor is Printify. They're one of those options that you can help make and sell other products and goods that pair well with your handcrafted items like your candles and soap. And by the way, if you're unfamiliar with Printify, don't worry, we'll cover them very briefly here in a few minutes. But this video is more about just secondary products in general and how to build up your brand with other supplementary items. But we're going to talk about craft show tips and creating bundles and gift sets. We're going to talk about booth setup and some other tips as well. And so stay tuned. So the first question you're probably wondering is, why should I add more products? Well, when people shop your booth, they're not looking to just buy a singular product, especially at holiday markets and craft fairs and craft shows. They're looking to get several items and are really doing a lot of gift shopping at the same time. They're looking for a vibe, they're looking for something they can relate to, and like I said, they're really looking for giftability. But your hands can only make so many products, especially in a short period of time. So services like Printify can help you add more items as part of your brand that feel like adjacent to your handmade items. They feel like they're all in one. We're talking things like mugs and notepads and matches and branded totes and bags. Without you having to actually physically make those products, they still are part of your brand. And no, I'm not talking about like random generic merch. I'm not talking about that. I mean stuff that actually fits your brand, fits your vibe, fits your theme. And in many cases, especially at live shows and events like craft booths, you're looking for something that fills certain gaps. So it might be a marketing gap. It could be a price gap. So maybe if you go with all these kind of high price luxury candles, you might want to have something that kind of pairs with it at a lower cost. Or if you're selling a lot of wax melts, well, you might want to sell something else to go along with those to kind of raise your average order margin. And a lot of people use other products like this as add-ons or promotional items at these events. So if you buy, 4 candles, maybe you get a little mug for free or something like that, right? There's a lot of ways you can do that. And we're going to talk about so many things throughout this video. But that's some of the main reasons you would use a service like Printify or add secondary products to your craft shows. It's about boosting sales, increasing brand awareness, giving your customers more affordable options, but also to just increase giftability. All right, so let's talk about some examples of products that you could sell using Printify to pair with your brand. Tote bags is a really good one for craft shows and holiday shows because a lot of customers are going to end up carrying around bags anyways with all the products that they're purchasing. The more they can carry in their bag and not have to keep running back and forth to the car or circle back around and pick up items as you go, every vendor is going to be handing out little paper bags, and that's fine. But if you can sell them a branded tote bag, especially if you have like a heavy themed brand that they really like and relate to, they're going to want to carry that just in general, but also around that show. Mugs always sell. They're such giftable items, and if you have mugs that pair well with your candles or your melts or your soap or your vibe and theme in general, make some that are specific for the holiday even. Mugs always work well for little bundled gift sets. Stickers, easy impulse buy. Easy thing to add as a freebie for promotional reasons. It's amazing to me because I'm not a huge sticker person myself, but it's amazing to me how big the sticker industry is and how many people purchase stickers for various things. It's kind of crazy. But again, if they like your theme and your brand, stickers will do really well. Notebooks, journals, and we're going to talk about some ways to use these items to pair with your products to make gift sets. And there's some really, really good ideas. We'll talk about those here a little bit later. In fact, I'm actually going to have some checklists that you're more than welcome to have access to. They'll either be linked in the description below or it might be part of the newsletter. So stay tuned. I'll figure that out. But just look in the video details below this video when the video's over and I'll tell you how to get those. But we'll have a checklist for some bundled gift ideas, a booth setup setup checklist as well, and some other resources. But again, notebooks and journals are great. You can use them for your testing logs. You can use them for just random ideas. You can use them for brainstorming. You can include them in gift sets, which again, we'll talk about here a little bit later. T-shirts and sweatshirts and hoodies, of course. I don't really have to spend a lot of time on this one. Great brand add-on. And look, I could go on. Check out the Printify website. They've got a huge catalog of available products you can use. We've talked about some of these in the previous videos as well. I don't just use them for additional secondary products to add on. I use them around the warehouse. I use mats. I use mugs. I've got Baxter, the black tie bear, just for fun one time. Well, actually, here's one of the mugs right here. Black tie on one side. Asked me about a candle that smells like this. It's a coffee mug. It smells like coffee. We sell fragrance oils and things that smell like coffee. Aprons, and we use a lot of things around the warehouse that also come from Printify. All right, so real quick, let's talk about Printify if you're not familiar with it. Real quick breakdown. Printify is basically a print-on-demand platform where you can make your products, like we've been talking about, t-shirts, mats, hats, aprons, mugs, custom products of any kind. And you don't have to make them yourselves. In fact, you don't even have to ship them yourself. If you want to go that route, you can actually link Printify to your website, so when people purchase those items, they make and ship it directly for you. I tend to use it in a different way most of the time, and that is I like to purchase the products myself and just have them shipped to me. That way I can take the products to the craft shows, or sell them in person, or just again, like use them around the warehouse in the shop. But you have the option either way. And the process is pretty simple. You choose a product, you use their design builder, you upload your images. You can either make them inside of Printify or you can use Canva or something like that to make your designs. You add them to the designer, to the template inside of Printify, and you choose your options, you place your order, and that's about it. Super simple, very easy service to use. So basically, it's just a service that helps you scale your business, scale your branding without a bunch of burnout and having to make every single product. Brands and businesses are very rarely made on one single product that you continue to make yourself. They're usually secondary items added on to help boost that brand and boost options for your customers. And remember, they're buying into your brand. You want brand loyalty. You want someone that's coming to you because they like everything about your brand and what you stand for and your theme and what you're offering. It's not always just about a singular product. All right, so now we gotta talk about something that's really, really important if you're gonna go this route though, and that is keeping your brand identity cohesive. And again, I mentioned this earlier, your shop, your website, your craft booth, it should look like a brand, not a garage sale, okay? So it's not supposed to be random, it's not supposed to be cluttered, it's not supposed to be like, well, just stop by and see what you can find. Look, you're still creating a business, you're creating a brand, so everything should be tied together, cohesive. Make sure your products pair well with each other. Make sure your designs all make sense together. Adding bundled gift sets to kind of show how you can incorporate these really goes a long way to help show that as well. So remember, branding and brand identity is still key. Don't just do random stuff. Good business is not built on randomness, it's built with intentionality. So make sure you plan what you're doing, make sure it makes sense. That means when you're designing products, try to use similar fonts and color palettes and things like that to keep everything cohesive. And when it comes to these gift sets and bundles we're talking about, remember, think bundles, not clutter. And this will make a little more sense when we talk about some booth setup ideas here shortly. Ways that you set up your booth really, really matter. And it's a really good idea to have certain areas that have bundled gift sets already together because they're giftable and it's easier for someone to walk up and see these cute little sets. Instead of having to go hunt around and pick and piece all these things together, you offer sets that are already made. And what that will do is help cut down on so much clutter. Again, we'll talk about booth setup here shortly. All right, so now let's talk about a few more logistical tips. So for starters, if you've never done this before and you've never added secondary products to bring to a craft show, for example, you want to keep it simple, okay? Don't overcomplicate it. 2 to 3 add-on items at max. Make sure those fit, make sure they're doing well, test different ones at different shows if you can, and then eventually you'll kind of settle in and figure out what's working best. And then each year you kind of mix it up. You offer something new, remove something that's not doing so well, but don't overcomplicate this. Don't overinvest, keep it simple at first. Now, and I should say real quick, Printify has a free version and all you're doing is paying for the product itself and then your markup is your margin, it's your profit margin. However, they do have a Printify premium and that will bring down a lot of other costs. So if you pay for the subscription, the cost of products and everything goes down. So just kind of do the math on that. And if you start doing enough products, it does make more sense to go premium, but you don't have to out of the gate. And another good tip for these craft shows is a lot of people are going to want things that maybe they can't purchase right then, or maybe something you have later or not available at the show, or maybe you run out, or maybe they have some other suggestions for later. Leave a QR code or something to your Printify store, to your website, It can be to an email, it could be to a newsletter. Have something easy for customers just to scan real quick so they can get information later, or you can reach back out them to get future sales. And then remember, when you're pricing bundles and gift sets that include other items, that you're pricing smart. You don't have to make killer margins on these other products. Remember, you're always going to generally make higher margin on your handcrafted items than you do on retail or resale items. You don't need to make killer margins. It's a boost to your sales. It's not the primary driver. And make sure when you're bundling, the pricing makes sense. There are two sides of this coin. There are times when the bundled gift set should actually be a little bit cheaper because they're getting a deal basically for buying multiple items. For example, buying 4 candles versus 1 should be a little bit cheaper. Buying 6 melts instead of 2 is generally a little bit cheaper. But when you're talking about gift sets, that's different. It's not multiple of the same item. It's a combination of several items to create a gift. It's already packaged together nicely. It's already been curated for the customer. It's bundled up. It's giftable already right out of the box, right? So in that case, that actually adds value. So most of the time, bundled gift sets are actually a little bit more expensive than if you buy them individually because you've already done the work for the customer. So keep that in mind too. But you can make either way work. Just make sure you're consistent with it. All right, so now let's get a little real. What to expect? What should you expect at shows like this? Well, the first thing is not every product is going to be a hit. And you got to know that. And you got to be okay with that. That's business, right? But that's true not just for secondary products. It's true for your candles, right? Or your soap or wax melts or whatever it is that you make. You don't know what's going to necessarily sell, and you might be surprised one way or the other. You might have things that you think aren't that great that fly off the shelves, and other things that are your favorites that no one cares about. That's part of business. That's part of doing these shows, is experimenting and seeing what's working, right? Seeing what customers are gravitating to. Markets and craft shows are a fantastic place to test new ideas, new products. That could be new labels, new jars, new fragrances, new products, right? But here's the benefit of using these add-on products like from Printify. You're not spending a ton of money or energy or time and effort to hand make these, right? So if they don't work, they don't sell, it's no big deal. You try something new. It's a lot easier to turn that inventory over to try new things and see what finally sticks. So you're getting a chance to test new products and concepts for your customers to grow your brand, grow your business at a very low cost, next to no effort and energy. And all you're really trying to do is up the value for your customers, right? And you'll get a boost out of this as well. So check out Printify if you haven't already. Check out some of our other videos if you want to see a little bit more in depth about actually creating some products and labels. We made a whole collection of candles actually from Printify that turned out amazing. We did it in like 15 minutes live on the video. I just created a quick little seasonal brand. And the point of that was not to try to tell you stop making your products and let Printify do it. The point of that was to show you, A, how to use their tool, their software, and that is pretty easy, but also how quickly you can create and test new ideas. The purpose of that video is to test a new seasonal collection, take it to a show, say, all right, people really like this type of scent. People like this price point. People like this jar, right? But that's the point of videos like this. And that's the point of products and services like Printify, is to help you boost your revenue and test new ideas, test new concepts, and see how it goes. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna talk about real quickly is some booth setup ideas for shows like this. And then after this, we'll talk about some of the gift bundling ideas that I've already kind of put together for you as examples. There are several ways to lay out your craft booth at a holiday show or any kind of craft market. And it depends on your space. And it's going to vary for everyone. And a lot of times you're given just a single space and all you have room for is a single table. Other times you have room like a corner set up, or other times you have a U-shape set up. Other times you have more of like, I would say, a standard retail where you can walk in and maybe you've got a couple shelves or tables on each side. Then you got a couple shelves or tables in the middle. There's several options, and I'm going to have some items linked again below where you can download or print off or whatever to give you some ideas based on these different space layouts. The first ones I'm going to talk about is the two most common ones, and we'll start with the single table layout. And that's where you simply walk up. These are usually for pretty small shows, cheap shows, not near as many customers walking around or potential customers. But you just have a single table, and you're usually either sitting in behind it or kind of off to the side, right? Now, in this, you don't have a lot of options. You're pretty limited because you have to have a small spot for checkout, and then you got to have your products, right? And then you got to have a space for like overstock, which is generally either behind you or underneath the table. Now, what I will say is even at these shows where you have only a single layout, a lot of times you can still have like a tiny cart to the side or right behind it where you can have your checkout, so you still have your full table available. But if that's not the case, you got to get it all on one table. And it's pretty simple. these shows you can't bring as much inventory. That's what it boils down to. And so you have maybe half of your table designated to some of your candle options, right? Have a few out of each scent, keep the rest under the table or behind you against the wall, depending on your setup. And then the other side will be used for a few gift ideas. I would only take one bundle option at a show like this, or a setup like this, and then have a few extra on hand in case those run out. But I wouldn't overcommit to too much inventory. And that's just the nature of these shows that are smaller, and there's just not much you can do about it, really. You can only maximize the space you've got. Now, if you are fortunate enough to have more space, I like the U-shape setup because it welcomes your customers in. So they kind of step into almost like a small store setup, and they've got shelving on the left, they've got some straight in front of them, and then they keep going and there's more on the right. Now, there are several ways you can do this kind of setup. You can have products all over the place and you can have a checkout in the middle. I've seen that before. To me, that gets very congested. My favorite, which I think adds more flow, is to have products left to right and in the center, and then you are on the end for checkout. That gives you room. It keeps like bottlenecks from happening as much, because if you have checkout in the middle, it can get really crowded. Let people shop and make their way around, and then you're on the very end doing checkout, right? So that's my favorite setup. And now in that kind of setup, if we're talking about adding secondary items along with your main product, for argument's sake, we'll say candles, you would have like one table or section of shelving for your main products. That could be your candles and wax melts, soaps, whatever. And you have various options, maybe a few sizes, plenty of stock there. And that, you need to make sure you're drawing attention to that. You know, have signage there, have everything clear and easy to see. Then as you work your way around, maybe on the back table, you've got some of your secondary items that stand alone, that make a lot of sense to stand alone. Or if you are a candle maker that does both candles and wax melts, you'd have candles and then wax melts. Or soap, or most of you are making more than one product, and so primary product. That's what you use those tables for. The front middle that kind of stands out as like an end cap is what it sort of looks like, except for it's in the middle. That's going to bring a lot of attention, and that's a lot of the time the first thing that people see when they walk up. And again, this layout sort of shows that. That's where I like to do one of two things. If I have bundles and gift sets, they go right there. If they don't, or if I don't have those, I put best sellers there, right? Get people in, grab their attention. And then finally on the end table, on the end of the U, is where I do checkout, bag up their items and so on. Now, I did mention one other setup that's sort of like a retail walk-in where it's like shelving and then another one back behind. It's similar to the U, but there's more space. So if you got a really big space, 2 or 3 times the normal U-shaped space layout, you can stagger shelves more, have space to walk around all the area. It's like you've got like an open floor concept, basically. And that's the case, I would just follow the same kind of strategy, right? Have tables set for candles, some for your wax melts or warmers or whatever it is, some for your bundled gifts, some for your best sellers, and then of course a checkout area. So it's the same concept, just a slightly different layout because you have more options, because you have more room. All right, now let's talk about craft show bundle ideas. Now these are fun. Now, these are just some examples. You could of course make your own and change these up. These are just to kind of give you some inspiration. And feel free to use these if you want, change the names, swap out the items, whatever you want to do. And I'm probably not going to talk about all of them, but the full list is down in the details below. So you got one that's called like a cozy night scent. That could be a candle or a warmer, and it comes with a mug and maybe a tote bag. You could place that in a wooden crate with a soft blanket. That's one idea. You could have a holiday prep kit, and maybe that includes a holiday or a festive candle, and it comes with a notebook and a sticker sheet, and it's like it's meant to like have someone sit down while they're doing their holiday prep, their holiday shopping list. You could do like a romantic or scented lover set, and that's a travel tin candle, a branded tote, a mini soap, fragrance soap, and so on. Candle care combos, that comes with a candle, a wick trimmer, and a candle care card. Tiny little micro bundle, right? But that's still a bundle. Morning ritual set. This was one of my favorite ones. That's like a coffee scented candle that also comes with a custom mug, and then a small bag of custom or private labeled coffee beans as well. That's a really, really fun one. So anyways, that's a few of them. There's a whole list of them here. Feel free to check them all out. In that list, you'll see the name that I gave it, items to include, maybe a target price. Of course, that's going to vary drastically on your products, but also like a way to display that, display tips at the actual show. Oh, one other one I did want to mention real quick too. If you've got a really good theme that people really, really like, another thing you can do is like a winter night or a cozy night set, and that is a themed or branded like throw pillow or blanket. It also comes with a warm scented candle. It comes with a mug or even an ornament with your brand on the tree. So great gift set ideas. So there's so many of these. I hope you guys enjoy them. Hope you find some inspiration, get you thinking, get you excited. These are ways to really level up at craft shows, markets, holiday boutiques, but you might find out at doing these like what really, really works, and then you could start selling the same thing on your website, your Etsy shop, or wherever. And then one other checklist that will be available is your holiday prep checklist. I'm not going to talk about that because it's really just a list of items and categorized of things you need to not forget to take, right? So office supplies, power, POS system, your products, of course, marketing and signage, all sorts of things. So that list is there to help you as a checklist whenever you're prepping for your show as well. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, feedback for the video itself. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We put out videos like this all the time. Don't forget those resources down there as well. Sign up for the newsletter too. The whole purpose of that is to make sure you're not missing out on sales. As you know, we're a big fragrance oil supplier, as well as some other products as well, wicks, candle dyes, and so on. And the best way to find out about our sales and promotions and new releases, like we just had 2 amazing new fall releases that a lot of people say sometimes they're not sure when these happen. The newsletter is the best way. You will not miss out if you're signed up for the newsletter. And then we provide some other general help that way as well. So with that being said, check out blacktiebarn.com for our products. Check out Printify, of course, to supplement your handcrafted items. Sign up for the newsletter below. What am I freaking? Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and like this video if you enjoyed it. And yeah, that's it. Well, good luck everyone this holiday season, and I'll see you next time.